federal judge Thursday rejected Blue Origin's challenge to a $2.9 billion contract that NASA awarded to SpaceX for building the lunar lander destined to carry astronauts to the moon. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos' space venture had argued that NASA gave overly wide leeway to SpaceX in advance of the contract award in April, but Judge Richard Hertling of the U.S. Court of Federal Claims rejected Blue Origin's arguments. His opinion was sealed, pending a November 18 conference to discuss which details needed to be redacted for competitive reasons. NASA said it will resume work with SpaceX on the HLS contract, known as Option A in NASA's procurement language, as soon as possible. The space agency announced it awarded SpaceX the $2.9 billion HLS contract April 16, choosing the Starship concept over competing bids led by Blue Origin and Dynetics. There will be forthcoming opportunities for companies to partner with NASA in establishing a long-term human presence at the moon under the agency's Artemis program, the agency added. The decision apparently ends a 6-month delay in the start of NASA's contract with SpaceX for a human-rated moon landing vehicle based on the company's Starship megarocket. The human landing system is the final core element to develop for NASA's Artemis program, which aims to return astronauts to the surface of the moon. Bezos personally added in a tweet that the ruling was not the decision we wanted, but noted that we respect the court's judgment, implying that his company will not appeal the decision further. SpaceX did not respond to a request for comment on the ruling. Musk, in a tweet replying to CNBC's report on the ruling, posted a photo from the 2012 movie Dread. Blue Origin assembled a team of industry juggernauts, including Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Draper, in a national team of contractors to design a human-rated lunar lander. But the Blue Origin-led team's bid totaled $5.9 billion, more than double the value of the contract NASA ultimately awarded to SpaceX. NASA said in April that SpaceX will self-fund and assume financial risk for more than half of the Starship moon lander's development and testing. SpaceX is already privately developing the reusable Starship heavy lift launch system, which will send the lunar lander into space, then refuel the ship's methane and liquid oxygen tanks over a series of launches, supplying propellant to power engines for the descent and takeoff at the moon. After losing a bid protest with the Government Accountability Office, Blue Origin filed a lawsuit against NASA in August with the Court of Federal Claims over what it said were flaws in the agency's procurement approach. Blue Origin, which has not yet flown a rocket into orbit or developed a deep space vehicle, released an infographic the same month that said SpaceX's HLS proposal is immensely complex and high risk. NASA said it hoped to pick at least 2 HLS teams to proceed in development of a crewed moon lander, but Congress did not appropriate enough funding in fiscal year 2021 to support 2 contracts. In a statement released after the court ruling Thursday, Blue Origin said its lawsuit highlighted important safety issues in the HLS procurement, which the company said NASA has not yet addressed. Returning astronauts safely to the moon through NASA's public-private partnership model requires an unprejudiced procurement process alongside sound policy that incorporates redundant systems and promotes competition. Blue Origin remains deeply committed to the success of the Artemis program, the company said. NASA's HLS contract with SpaceX covers 2 missions to the moon, first a demonstration flight without astronauts, then a moon landing with crew near the lunar South Pole. NASA's goal of landing humans on the moon by the end of 2024, set by the Trump administration, was already in doubt before the HLS procurement delay. NASA's plan for the Artemis missions is to use the government-owned Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft to transport astronauts to the vicinity of the Moon, where they will board commercial lunar landers to carry them to the Moon's surface and back into space. The astronauts will return to Earth on the Orion capsule. In addition to this contract, NASA continues working with multiple American companies to bolster competition and commercial readiness for crewed transportation to the lunar surface, the agency said. There will be forthcoming opportunities for companies to partner with NASA in establishing a long-term human presence at the moon under the agency's Artemis program, including a call in 2022 to U.S. industry for recurring crewed lunar landing services. Through Artemis missions, NASA will lead the world in landing the first woman and first person of color on the lunar surface, conduct extensive operations on and around the Moon, and get ready for human missions to Mars, NASA said Thursday. NASA awarded 5 companies funding in September to work on studies for future lunar lander concepts, beyond the Artemis program's first human landing on SpaceX's Starship vehicle. Dynetics, which lost to SpaceX in the HLS Optioner competition, received an award of $40.8 million. Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman, both members of Blue Origin's national team, received $35.2 million and $34.8 million, respectively. NASA awarded Blue Origin $25.6 million, and gave SpaceX $9.4 million. NASA said in a statement the awards will help the agency enable a steadier pace of crewed trips to the lunar surface under the Artemis program. These companies will make advancements towards sustainable human landing system concepts, conduct risk reduction activities, and provide feedback on NASA's requirements to cultivate industry capabilities for crewed lunar landing missions, NASA said in September. NASA has ruled out a weekend launch for a SpaceX Crew Dragon carrying 4 astronauts to the International Space Station, delaying the Crew 3 flight to Monday at the earliest due to expected bad weather, agency officials said Thursday. NASA and SpaceX are also now considering whether to bring the 4 astronauts of the previous mission, Crew 2, back down to Earth before sending Crew 3 skyward. A SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule and Falcon 9 rocket were originally scheduled to launch Crew 3 early Sunday morning, October 31, from Pad 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center here in Florida. But before the crew could climb aboard, NASA announced a 72-hour delay, citing poor weather conditions along the rocket's flight path. Then, a minor medical issue cropped up with one of the astronauts, forcing the agency to push the launch out to no earlier than 11:36 p.m. EDT on Saturday, November 6, 0336 GMT on November 7. However, Mother Nature has now nixed that plan, as the weather conditions all weekend look pretty poor, according to forecasters at the 45th Space Delta here at Cape Canaveral. So NASA and SpaceX are rethinking their plans for both launch and splashdown. Mission teams will make a final decision on whether to prioritize Crew 3's launch or Crew 2's return in the coming days based on the likelihood of favorable conditions for a Crew Dragon splashdown or Crew Dragon launch, NASA said in an afternoon blog post. NASA and SpaceX also are reviewing the time needed between launch or return operations. If NASA presses ahead with the Crew 3 launch Monday, liftoff from Pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center would be targeted for 9:51 p.m. EST. If Crew 2 is ordered home first, undocking could come as early as 1:05 p.m. Sunday for a splashdown off the coast of Florida on Monday. SpaceX requires several days to transition from Crew Dragon recovery operations to a launch campaign, and a Monday landing by the Crew 2 astronauts would further delay the launch of their replacements. It also would prevent a direct handover in which an outgoing station crew spends several days with their replacements, familiarizing them with lab operations. The Crew 2 astronauts currently on station, NASA's Shane Kimbrough and Megan MacArthur, along with European Space Agency, ESA, astronaut Thomas Pesquet and Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency spaceflyer Akihiko Hoshide, were originally slated to come home on Thursday, assuming the Crew 3 quartet of NASA's Raj Achari, Tom Marshburn, Kayla Barron and ESA's Matthias Maurer launched on October 31. The original Crew 3 delay to Wednesday, November 3, put Crew 2's earliest departure on November 7. Crew 2, which launched in April, is in a bit of a time crunch, since its Dragon spacecraft is rated to stay in space for approximately 210 days, or 7 months. With that deadline fast approaching, and the weather looking bleak, NASA may decide to bring that mission home first. These are dynamic and complex decisions that change day by day, Steve Stick, NASA's Commercial Crew Program Manager said in the blog post. The weather in November can be especially challenging, So our goal is to move forward on the plan with the highest probability of mission assurance and safety. Crew 3 astronauts Raja Chari, Thomas Marshburn, Caleb Barron and European Space Agency astronaut Matthias Maurer originally planned to take off October 31st. But the flight was delayed to Wednesday because of high waves in the Atlantic Ocean along the Crew Dragon's trajectory to orbit, where the crew might have to attempt an emergency landing in an abort. The flight then was delayed to at least Saturday because of an unspecified medical issue with one of the crew members. In Thursday's blog post, NASA said the medical issue is still being monitored, but it's expected to be cleared by the time Crew 3 launches, whenever that might be. The launch delay to Monday at the earliest was due to predicted high liftoff winds, cumulus clouds, and surface electric field constraints Saturday, NASA said, and unacceptable downrange weather Sunday along the ascent trajectory. Mission teams are still monitoring weather conditions for a launch attempt on Monday, November 8, NASA said. The primary operational concern is strong winds at the pad and unfavorable conditions downrange.